Hey, Gavin.
Hey, Louie.
You're looking particularly devilish today.
And you're looking very pixelated today.
Ladies and gentlemen who are not watching on the Patreon, Gavin is telling no lies. I am zooming in from 2012.
I feel like I should be tipping. I feel like I should be like, are you going to take that shirt off, baby?
Yeah, I'm on Omegle right now. As we all learned at our last episode, I'm not working right now, so I had to turn in my work computer, and now I'm on an older computer. My life is Carly Rae Jepsen, Run Away With Me. Okay, like it is just on a getaway train, but it's really fun. So
that's good. That's the way it should be. Listen, the way you should put it is you're having some well-deserved time off.
Thank you. We all deserve. It is just, it's very weird. Like, I'm putting my head that way, but it's going the opposite way because these computers are so old. Anyway, I'm so sorry. Welcome to the Mixed Reviews, everyone.
We are a film podcast where we take a film subject such as an actor, director, or a mini genre. We take a month, we read as much as we can, we watch as much as we can, and we give all that information back to you. And then we tell you what we like and what we don't like.
The reviews are, in fact, mixed.
Oh, baby, are they?
Oh, baby, are they?
Baby, are they?
This is a very special episode, Gavin. This is episode 150.
That's 150?
150.
Oh, okay.
50.
Sorry.
50.
It's, sorry.
I'm
Math.
50.
I'm 150. And I kick. This is an amazing milestone for us. We've been doing this for quite some time. The show has changed in many variations since our very first episode. I listened to our very first episode in preparation for this. We used to have no format. We used to record in person. We used to do this bi-weekly because we were crazy.
I remember that we did it in my first apartment here in New York.
Yes.
I believe we were just sitting on my orange couch.
Yep.
With a microphone between us.
Mm-hmm.
Raw dogging, let's make a podcast.
You know what? It sounds pretty good still.
I was going to say, I listened back to a bit of it, and I was like, okay, first of all, we had the banter down since day one. But I remember also after being like, what if we had I don't know, segments, structure, a roadmap to what we're doing on the show? And you were like,
I'm listening intently.
Yes. You're like, well, I've never thought of that. Imagine it's a structure for a show.
Weird.
But yeah, it's been, I was doing the math. So I've been in New York. This is my 8th year in the city. I'll be celebrating in November. I think we must have started in half a year. So we're close to 8 years now of doing this.
Yes. Yeah. I believe it was March of 2017.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yep.
Yeah.
So, honey, we've been around the block.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Back again. But okay, let's take a pause on all that because we're going to revisit that for this episode. But we have a couple of old business things to handle first. Gavin, tell the girlies they got to go vote for us. I mean, if you've loved our 150 episodes and any bonus episode we've done in between, any of the stuff on our Patreon, all that good stuff, we would love for you to go to the podcastawards.com for the Listener's Choice, Viewers' Choice Podcast Awards. I'm going to read some copy that our lovely friend David over at the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective, a podcast collective we are a proud member of, wrote for us. Last episode we put in his read. I was informed by him that if we did that again, he would be destroying himself. This would be the last episode of the Mixed Reviews. Yes. The show's been canceled. So here goes some copy that I'm reading from my phone if you're watching on Patreon. This year, Glitterjaw is sponsoring the Podcast Awards, and you, the listeners, can nominate our friends and fellow Glitterjaw Collective show, The Mixed Reviews. Oh, that's us. That's us. I was supposed to personalize this. I think this is as personal as I get. For consideration in the film and TV category, please just take 30 seconds and go to podcastawards.com and nominate The Mixed Reviews.
That's it. It's
it.
very simple. It requires you to sign up with an email. My mom already asked me, do you have to pay money? No, you do not. You just sign up for an email. You can vote for us in the film and TV category at podcastawards.com. I believe there's also like a general category that we're nominated in. I think everybody is sort of nominated in that as well. Feel free to vote for us there too. But really what we want is that TV film. We want that award.
That's the one, girls. That's the goal. But this will be the last opportunity for everyone to go
yes,
and nominate us.
The nomination category only extends through the month of July. It's currently July 2024. For those of you who are listening in the future, for those of you who are listening in the past, how are you doing that? Are you time travelers? I don't like it.
Are you the kids from Runaways? What's going on?
Yeah. Gert?
Gert, it's Gert.
It's Gert.
Oh, she died.
She did, but then she came back. So
that's true.
Spoilers
Chase.
For yeah. Oh, I fucking love Chase. Hey, you want to talk about himbos?
Yeah. Remember when Runaways was good? Like,
yeah,
it was.
Yeah.
When it was good, it was real good.
Yeah, absolutely. Though I did Rainbow Rowell.
Oh yeah,
you introduced me to. Just did a run on it. That was. Chef's kiss. Like, really great. Anyways, I digress. In an alternate
universe, me and Gavin are hosting like a comic book podcast.
Yes.
is the truth of this.
But we still need you to go vote at podcastawards.com. Vote for us in the film and TV category. We're called the Mixed Reviews, if you don't know what show you're listening to. So
the Sir Mixed Reviews, if you're nasty. I don't know. I just made that up really quickly. Also
correct.
Also, shout out to Gavin's Brat themed drink tonight, everyone. Yeah. It is Brat Summer. We're here.
First, what you do is you take an apple and you split it down symmetrical lines.
Wow, yeah, rotten to the core. Our other old business to take care of is we asked you guys to go online and vote for your favorite Jodie Foster movie for our last episode, for our Queer Pride Month episode. And
also, speaking of listener's choice, an episode you decided on.
Correct. That was such a fun episode. I feel like I watched a lot of movies that I had never watched before. We'll
never watch again.
Nell, I'm so sorry, sweetie, but I will not be watching you again. But here are the results. Kind of like a stomping of the competition. We had in last place Panic Room 9%, Freaky Friday with 10%, my pick Contact coming in at 18%, and then Gavin's pick Silence of the Lambs running away with it with 63%. What I'm taking away from this though, Case Sully 54 left a comment that said, "God, that's a good list," and I was like, "Yeah, so it is a very good list.
It is.
She is. I mean, the range, the breadth of work, iconic."
Right, and that's the, I am actually a little shocked that Contact didn't have a little more fight in it, honestly, in terms of the voting. But I think you can't go wrong with any of those four. I did see somebody mention they were like Candle Shoe, and it's like, okay, it's a fun movie, but Jodie's best performance
is the nostalgic pick.
Yeah.
But thank you, Jodie, for your service, you little naiad, you. And we'll see you at the next Pride Rally, girl. But okay, getting to this month's episode, Gavin had a very good idea. We talked about this when we were doing our Patreon exclusive, where we went and saw Civil War together. Gavin and Louie go to the movies. And Gavin said that movie famously stars Kirsten Dunst, and you mentioned like, oh, our 150 is coming up, and I think we should redo our first episode, which was on Kirsten Dunst. And I remember when we were conceiving this project, we were like, oh, well, like, who should we start off with? And one of us must have said Kirsten Dunst.
So in re-listening to the first episode, and this surprised me, and it's not me trying to take credit, but you bring up in the first episode, it was my suggestion. And I have been telling people for years
that it was
your suggestion. But I mean, I think that shows how like sort of in sync we were, because she is very deserving of having been our first subject.
Yeah, I think I bring that up just to say that like we were immediately like, oh, fuck yeah, this is exactly the type of person we want to talk about. Someone who has had a long career, someone who's done interesting things, someone who isn't talked about enough, I think, as far as like, great actresses. We're great performers, period. And so, yeah, we were so excited to, cover her. And I think this is a great chance for us to give her the full mixed reviews experience, where we're actually, doing our sections. And then also, the bonus of she's had plenty of films since we last talked about her. I think the last thing that she did, or when we cut off, she had just, I think it was like The Beguiled, maybe?
Yeah, The Beguiled was just coming out. So
right. So there's a lot has happened since then. She got her first Academy Award nomination. She's in Civil War now. Or, there's a lot going on has been going on in her career and life. So I think it is wonderful to revisit.
I wonder if she still doesn't believe that her character in Hidden Figures is a racist. Oh well. That's the other thing I picked up from re-listening to the first episode. I had put in light on sound clips back then, but I put in a clip of her in an interview being like, I don't think she's a racist, but it's like, babe.
Well, I mean, we can talk about that when we get there, but like Hidden Figures, like what a fucking conundrum of a movie. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's very Obama era, like everything's fine.
But yeah, I do think I agree with you completely. I think the concept in my brain was that like we just haven't, in listening back to those earlier episodes, even like up through episode 9, which I'm not saying we're redoing anybody else at the moment, but up through like episode 9, before we really had our format, we haven't given those people their flowers the same way that we have everybody else. Because we've spent a lot of time with these subjects, watching these movies, reading interviews, listening to interviews, really sort of forming a full picture of who they are. And once again, it's all supposition on our parts, but we're using first-person sources, i.e. the person themselves. And I think it's cool to be able to do that with somebody, as you said, that has as diversified a career as anybody we could possibly cover. Also, and I didn't put this together during our last episode, and we haven't talked with our audience about what our next episode is. We're really kind of in the middle of this interesting triptych of women who started their career very early and had to grow up in the spotlight and have now turned themselves more towards, more interesting projects and products. And I think Kirsten's sort of the pinnacle of that, because she, the first movies that she's in are so adult and so like such like it requires capital A acting.
Yeah.
And
similar to Jodie.
Exactly. And similar to actually our next subject. And I think it's a really fascinating place to be, because each one has grown up in a different decade as well, too. Jodie's 70s, 80s. Kirsten, like really 90s and 2000s. Our next subject, I'll just spill the beans. Our next subject's going to be Kristen Stewart. And she's in the like, 2000s to 2010s, really coming of age. And it's interesting to see the way that these people sort of, the way that times change and the way that like we consider youth and whatnot in terms of the public eye. But all that being said, that's sort of bigger think. I just think Kirsten is so smart and so brave and so genuine when she performs. She's not somebody, I don't think she's somebody who ever feels like she's like gets real lost in a character. Like,
no.
And she sort of said that in interviews. Actually, one of my favorite interviews was during the Civil War press tour. I think it was Vogue, maybe British Vogue, where somebody asked her about method acting, and she's like, "Method acting's for men." She's like, "What am I gonna do? Go home to my 2 kids and be like, oh, I'm a British peasant girl?" Like, no, I've got kids to raise, and
But she's even said that, like, I remember she was interviewing about Melancholia, and she was like, she's like, "I'm not carrying that around with me. Are you kidding me?" She's like, "All I want to do is like, we're in this beautiful location. I want to go to my hotel, like, get in the tub, like, order room service, and like enjoy myself." Like, crazy.
And the closest I think she said is in that THR roundtable, that famous THR roundtable where she kind of the her and the Juliana Margulies of it all. She says, sometimes she writes herself a little note at the end of the night, just being like, "And we're putting this away," and that's about it. But like, I can't imagine starting this young, being getting that kind of attention that she got, and really like throwing herself into all the roles that she has, and then at the same time being so practical about it and being like, no, it's work. It's a work I love, but it's work.
Yeah. Do you remember what your first movie was of hers?
My very first movie of hers was probably Jumanji. And then, if not Jumanji, Interview with the Vampire. Like, and that's the dichotomy of Gavin.
Yeah, well, that's the dichotomy of Kirsten. Yeah, mine probably was Jumanji, probably like at some like after school program type thing.
That's the thing, is I didn't see Jumanji in the theater either, but I remember seeing Jumanji in school.
Yeah.
So
okay, great. Love it. She's so good. I was just about to ask you if you remember who did the rewind for this episode, but like we didn't have that.
None. No.
But we did not have that. So that being said, why don't we get at the rewind? Miss Kirsten Caroline Dunst. She was born April 30th, 1982, a fellow Taurus.
She's like a stage name. I don't need that.
No.
Nope.
Though I do love Kirsten Caroline. If she was a woman of the South, that's a great name. Oh my God. Okay, wait, bring it on, Tauros. Wow. We're uncovering a lot here. Okay, guys. The next review is doing the work.
This is the research. This is the uncovering. This is the unsolved mysteries you come here for.
Yes. Kirsten is not a Southern woman. She actually was born in New Jersey in Point Pleasant. Her dad worked for Siemens, and he was like medical service executive. Her mom was a flight attendant for Lufthansa. Her dad is Germany. Her dad is Germany. He's German, originally from Hamburg, where they made hamburgers for us. And so all that to say, she is white. She says she calls herself Aryan, like a Swedish milkmaid, is the quote. So LOL.
Baby, don't call yourself Aryan. Don't do that.
I know, that's very aggressive. She started working so young. She tells the story in a lot of places where she was just, being a baby, being a toddler.
I was 3 years old in the grocery store, and like people would come up to my mom and be like, your kid's cute, you should put her in like child acting or modeling. And we were in New Jersey, and so I signed with the Ford modeling agency as a little girl. I went out for a Kick cereal commercial and I booked it.
On the first day of Christmas, my mom gave to me 24 Crayola crayons.
Her mom was like, yeah, fuck it. Like, I nothing that I found, but like, she never says like, there's nothing in the stars about this. Right. There was nothing like, no family thing. It was just her mom was like, yeah, let's do this. And as far as I can tell, like took really good care of her and protected her throughout this entire process, which I think is probably so important and why she has such a good like head on her shoulders now. But she was working just like Jodie, like at 3 years old, like literally just like Jodie.
I have a very similar story to myself. My parents would just bring me around, and they were eventually like, "Oh my God, your kid should be in the business." And that's how people started paying nickels to see me at the circus. So that's they're like, "Shield your eyes."
The freak is on display.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you were there. Is that how we met?
Yeah. She was assigned to Ford Models and Elite Model Management. In 1988, she appeared on SNL. She was the granddaughter of George Bush. She made her film debut with a very minor role in Boo, the actual bad man, Woody Allen's short film Oedipus Rex. It was part of the anthology series New York Stories in 1989. And then she also had a little guest appearance in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Gavin, did you clock her?
Oh, of course. And during the pandemic, like we started rewatching Star Trek, for me, Dan's first time watching Star Trek from the beginning. And so when we got to that episode, I believe it's in season 7, because of course I would know that. Yeah. I can't know math, but I can know what season Kirsten Dunst had a very minor role in.
Your brain is like, math, out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Star Trek?
Overload.
There go those piano lessons. But yeah, it's like a very minor. She's like a child who has like a voice extension device thing. She's essentially like under the care of Loxana Troy, who's Deanna Troy's mother. This is more information than you need. I'm so sorry. I'm a nerd.
It's called a visor. It enables me to see.
Like my vocal enhancer. It helps me make sounds.
I see you've already met my star pupil.
In 1983, her mom decides we're going to move to LA.
She's like,
Mommy,
Mom!
straight to Los Angeles, please. They moved to Los Angeles with it's her and her brother and her mom. Her parents separate. She says later when she was in her teenage years, it was a little bit difficult to, deal with the fame, but she was, for all intents and purposes, she kind of was pretty sheltered. She, wasn't like, there was no Drew Barrymoring around. Like it was, she was in school. She had, a lot of teachers and acting coaches who were very protective of her. Especially,
this is jumping a bit ahead, but just as like flavor, as color to this idea that she was very sheltered. She talks about how like on the set of Bring It On, everybody was like going out partying together.
They were in a hotel and I was in a house with my mom. So they were going to Mexico on like a weekend, and I was having my girlfriends come down and like singing Alanis Morissette, going to see the Blair Witch, or the new Dixie Chicks album, going to see Blair Witch in the theaters. So I got along with everyone great, but I was definitely still the innocent one on set.
Right. And it's because she was still living with her mom, she
Right.
wasn't, staying at hotels and doing the like kind of party acting thing. She was just hanging out with her mom. She said that she has said that, her mother always had the best intentions for her in show business. It seems like she must have really lucked out because we have so many stories from like Jeanette McCurdy to Macaulay Culkin, like, or parents are, using their children as paychecks. That feels like this never was the case. I don't know.
And listen, like, I don't mean to once again cast aspersions onto Jodie Foster's mother. She clearly had a good relationship with her, but like, this is also not the type of stage mom who's gonna take her daughter to do semi-nude pictures at the age of 13. Like, this is a woman who like is very protective of her daughter.
She says it's not a natural way to grow up, but it's the way I grew up, and I wouldn't change it. I don't think anybody can sit around and say my life is more script than yours. Everybody has their issues. So again, I don't think she's, casting any judgment on anyone for anything, but she's just like, this is what happened to me. That's the only experience I know. And she's made it through. So her breakthrough role is 1994's Interview with the Vampire. And she's talked about how she did like 10 billion screen tests, auditions, worked really, really hard, really wanted the role. But at the time, that when she finally got it, it was a great time, and that she's never been on a movie set like it since. It was just like being that movie with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. It was just like so over the top, so extravagant. Right. Period piece. The vampires obviously of it all.
Right. The fact that she was working at night, she said, she would sleep and she would get up and do her homework at like 3 p.m. and then go shoot the movie. She's 10, I think, at the starting of the filming, turns 11 during the filming of the movie. And listen, like, we've all heard what we've heard about Brad Pitt, so this is not my defense of him, but she has said in almost every interview that Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise were really protective of her as well, too. And like really like not coy about like getting her off the set for anything that would be deemed too upsetting. Or, Neil Jordan was also very much like, no, like, we're not like, yes, she's biting people. Yes, there's this fake blood, but like, we're not letting that be the focus of, because they didn't want to traumatize her. They didn't want her to have these horrific memories of doing this film.
Yeah. And she says, she famously kisses Brad Pitt, who's like 20 years her senior. And she said, I thought it was gross that Brad had cooties. I mean, I was 10.
I hated it so much because, I don't know, Brad was like my older brother on the set, and it's kind of like kissing your brother, I don't know. But, I don't know, he was like, it was weird kissing an older guy, and I had to kiss him on the lips, so it was gross.
She plays Claudia, this like child vampire, who wants to grow up.
Yeah, I was going to say who over the course of the film ends up living over a century.
Yeah.
And so like mentally ages and physically can't. And
Right.
that's a really difficult thing for a child to portray an adult trapped in a child's body. I do also want to say I recently, and I'm not calling anybody out, so I'm not going to mention names, but I was listening to a podcast that was talking about Interview with the Vampire, and the person that was on it made this grand, like, well, she's like the love interest of Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. And I don't think that's true at all when you watch the movie, because clearly like Louis and Lestat are in love with each other, which is also the intention of the book and the intention of the new TV series, which has happened since we did our original Kirsten Dunst episode, which by the way is fucking amazing. And if you've not watched the Interview with Vampire series, I highly recommend it. But she's their daughter. Like,
Yeah.
and I think it's a weird thing to, yes, she does kiss Brad Pitt in that scene, but that's because she's fucking confused. Like,
Yeah.
that it's, but I've never watched that movie and gotten predatory vibes from Louis or Lestat. It's always been like some fucked up version of mommy and daddy.
Yeah, yeah. I think she does a really good job. She talks about how her acting coach, helped her to get to those emotional places, being like, acts like you're playing a trick on your brother.
Yes.
Or like how it's going to feel when you slam a door and you're so mad. Like that type of stuff to get her to these complex emotional places that a child, one, wouldn't know and two, shouldn't know about.
Yeah.
But she's really good at it. I think when she's like a little angry, she looks like a doll. She's like a little doll.
And that's exactly why she was cast, because she looks like a porcelain doll. I mean, that I put the clip in the original episode, but I think I'm going to put it in the same clip, because that scene where she cuts off her hair and then screams because she realized she can't even change her appearance. Like,
Yeah.
she will forever be this like porcelain doll of a child, is so well, because it's so full of rage and yet completely breaking, and you believe it. You believe that this child is this immortal monster.
Yeah.
Which one of you did it? One of you did it! Which one of you made me the way I am?
What you are? A vampire gone insane that pollutes its own bed.
And if I cut my hair again?
It will grow back again.
But it wasn't always so. I had a mother once, and Louis, he had a wife. He was mortal, the same as she, and so was I.
The next year, she does a complete switch and does 1984's Little Women, directed by Julia Armstrong. So maybe she's already working with female directors, which we will get all the way back to later. I hadn't seen this movie, and so I watched it for this episode, and I think it's such an interesting, like, I don't know, inverse of the new version that
The
we
Greta
just,
Gerwig, yeah.
Yeah, the Greta Gerwig. It's so funny seeing, not funny, but like interesting seeing like what feminism was in 1994 and what that looked like through the lens of this book that's like ancient and was already like really forward thinking for women's rights and liberation compared to what Greta did for our generation now.
I think there's like basically two major like career defining high points for Kirsten in terms of, and once again, supposition, but in terms of like her working life and how she treats her working life. And I think this is the first one, because she still talks to this day that like going from Interview with the Vampire, which she had a good time on, but as she says, is a very male set. She was surrounded by men. There really weren't that many other women. To going to Little Women, which was a very female set. There was all these, between Winona Ryder and Claire Danes and Susan Sarandon and Gillian Armstrong, like all these strong women surrounding her, and like realizing that there's a different way of sort of working when it comes to women versus men.
Doing Interview with the Vampire, which was a very all-male dominated set, and then going right from that to Little Women, which was directed by a female. I think that like juxtaposition so young really informed my choices of working with a lot of females after, and it was never a big thing for me,
And it just felt like so cozy compared to, it was such a weird balance, but I think that kind of set up the foundation for my choices in life and for the rest of my career because I worked with such powerful, kind men. And then I worked with really incredible, powerful women. You know, I never thought, oh, she's a female director. That's me. It didn't matter to me ever. Their influence on me. Yeah, a huge deal.
I hate to say it, like, I like Samantha Mathis a lot, who plays the older version of Amy, which is the character Kirsten Dunst plays later in the film. I think Kirsten sort of outacts her, even as a child.
I was going to say, I think Kirsten and Claire Danes whoop everybody. Like, I think that they are the standout actresses. You know, when she says, "You'll pay for this, Joe March." It's so funny. She just has like that spunk to her that is just, you know, even like, it's funny, even in the Greta Gerwig version, I was like, God, Florence Pugh as that little bitch is so fucking annoying. Like, it's a hard line to watch, right? Like, you're a little snotty kid, like, it's going to be annoying. I didn't find her Amy annoying at all. She's just, you know, it's a very gentle, soft take on the story.
The scene, I mean, famously, I think Amy's most defining scene early on in the film is when she takes Joe's manuscript and throws it into the fire. And the way Kirsten Dunst plays the, like, I'm sorry at the end of it, you genuinely believe, like, oh, this is a child who's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, that is how children react when you get angry at them. Which I'm not saying, like, go scream at a child to find out or anything. Though, I mean, well, depends on the child.
Yeah.
But
say that.
But I'm sorry, Joe, comes from such a deep wounded place. Because children want to be loved. I mean, from what I've seen.
Yeah,
you know. I've also seen Problem Child, so like.
we know.
And Problem Child too.
The squeakquel. The next year, I mean, she's kind of on a roll from the get-go, right? After that, she does Jumanji, which is just like a huge success. I don't know how much we need to talk about Jumanji. I just want to say, though, this year also, she's named by People magazine as one of 50 most beautiful people.
No, People magazine.
What is that about?
Yeah, like, we don't need that.
By this time, she's maybe 14, maybe.
Yeah. And that's being generous.
And that's me being generous, because that's not how time works. But like, I don't think anyone who's a teenager needs to be on People's 50 most beautiful people list, period. After Jumanji, she's kind of like in her, you know, awkward puberty phase, which is totally normal and fine. She does some episodes of ER. She is the voice of young Anastasia in Anastasia. We also talked about she's the voice of Kiki in Kiki's Delivery Service, which
exactly
was my 5-star review in our Miyazaki episode. It's not really until we get to 1999, right? Unless I'm missing anything.
I will put in a plug just for 1998's All I Want to Do. Just because All I Want to Do is another film directed by a woman, directed by Sarah Kemochin. And it's like a period comedy, and it's like mostly all girls. It's her, Rachel Lee Cook, Gabby Hoffman,
Heather Matarazzo?
Yeah, and Monica Keena. And if you've not seen this movie, because it's not the world's easiest thing to find, I think it's well worth everybody's attention. It's not, I don't think it's an amazing film, but it's such a shame because in a way it works on, it's like watching a feminist version of American Pie almost. And it got completely buried by the fucking Weinsteins. And yeah. And like, it's not even called All I Want to Do in every country. Like, All I Want to Do is the American title. I believe it's called Strike everywhere else in the world, except for Australia, where it is called The Hairy Bird, I believe, which is the very original title.
You shouldn't be thinking about sex. It's so trite.
Come on, I'm supposed to be thinking about it at my age. Don't you ever?
Why do you think my brain is so swift and uncluttered?
Needless to say, I know this is a complete sidebar, but 1998's All I Want to Do is worth looking into. There's a lot of good stuff there, and I think it'd be more well-remembered had the Weinsteins not messed with it.
Those fucking assholes.
I know. Everybody was...
They're going to be around. They're going to be, don't you worry. They're going to come right the fuck back.
Yeah, this is not your last time hearing of that.
99's Drop Dead Gorgeous. She talks about how when she was like, she says a lot of times, the movies that I was doing were the movies that I wanted to see.
Me and my girlfriends loved watching cheerleading competitions and also beauty pageants. So that's why I Drop Dead Gorgeous, because I wanted to see that.
She's also said a lot of times she loves doing comedies.
Yes.
And so this movie is just like, this movie is perhaps like one of the camp gay classics. It just is. I think it's too long, but I think it's very fun and good.
What kind of camp classics, Louis? Gay.
Gay,
Dad.
He's gay, Dad.
He's gay.
Did we? I mean, like, so Amy Adams is in this. She's so fucking good.
Yeah. Denise Richards in the best role she's ever had.
We fucked up by making Denise do like just slutty hot things. Like,
yes. Yeah.
Hollywood fucked up with that because she is incredible in this film.
R.I.P. Brittany Murphy. Not so much R.I.P. to
Kirstie Alley.
Thank you.
Fuck her. Kirstie Alley, I've been talking to friends about this. She was like all of our moms in the 90s.
Yeah.
And for that, I will be forever grateful. Unfortunately, she is a bad person.
Yes.
And she's dead now, so whatever. Allison Janney, Ellen Barkin, like this.
Yes, a cast.
A stacked cast. It's so funny. It's and I'm going to say something very hot, very controversial, Gavin, and do not be mad at me. This is the level of like best in show, type, like this is where I'm better at.
I'm not mad at you. Like, that's a personal preference that is the just don't go putting that on the apps.
Who is that filmmaker? I'm forgetting his name. We did a whole episode on him.
We did a whole episode on Christopher Guest. Yes.
This is, if anyone like me has any sort of like ick towards Christopher Guest movies and is like, oh, well, I like Best in Show, but everything else is too much for me, Drop Dead Gorgeous is for you because it is all of the best things of that without the cringiness sometimes that Christopher Guest likes to get into, which is fine. Some people,
but if you want to hear us talk more about this, we did an entire pageant film episode.
Wait, what am I saying? I should just ask you, Becky. Where is it? What? You heard me. Where is it?
If you're getting at something, you better just say it.
I just did.
Well, then you better be willing to back it up because you're talking crazy.
Uh-oh, you bring me on some of that snotty attitude, Becky. Bring it on! Well, as my mother says at Sunday dinner, come and get it. Get it all right. I might even take seconds.
She famously turned down the main character role in American Beauty.
Yeah, the Mina Savari role.
Yeah, she said she didn't want to do it because there's all this sex in it. And that's just kind of who she was. She was not, party girl. She was not like, she didn't want to use her. She was not out here like being like, oh, I have to be sexy to do the thing. And some women want to do that, and that's fine and great. And like Mia Savari is great in that role. Like, right. So no shade to her.
She did also famously say that like she didn't want to kiss Kevin Spacey, which I want to say her instincts were right on
spot on. Yeah, she said I was 15 years old and I didn't understand the material, which good for fucking her. She co-stars in Dick with Michelle Williams, which again, so funny.
Yes, I didn't. When I saw Dick as a kid, I was like, that's good. But I wonder if the kid that saw Dick would know as an adult how much I love Dick. I just really love Dick. I think Dick is so good.
Yeah.
And such good Dick.
People don't know how much we love Dick, Gavin.
Yeah, they don't. They truly don't know how much we love Dick.
We don't talk about it enough.
We love Dick.
Put your hands down.
I'm just waving my hands. Waving my hands.
Maybe, honestly, like, if you want some political counter programming to cleanse the palate of the horror show, watch Dick. It's really fun.
I'm a little surprised how, like, in all honesty, as much as we just did that bit, I do actually really like that movie, and I think she's very funny in it, and she has the like I think what could be on paper seen as the easier role, because Michelle Williams has to inject a lot of heart into her character, where Kirsten Dunst sort of just has to be like kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But she's basically playing a very different character than she was in Drop Dead Gorgeous. But I think they have a lot in common. There's that innocence prevails over
100%. She is very innocent girl in Drop Dead Gorgeous. Also, though, like,
jump scare Ryan Reynolds.
Yes. Michelle Williams, another actress who I think the range. My God,
yes.
So funny.
Yeah.
So talented. One day we will do her for sure.
Your dad could be watching you right now. His heart breaking because he can't reach out to the only person that matters to him in the whole world. His beautiful, darling daughter. My life is so tragic. Or it could be even worse. What if you fall in love and are about to get married, and you find out that your fiance's dad is your dad too, and that you guys are brother and sister? Oh my God. It's called incest, Arlene. And it's against the law.
Next up, she teams up with Sofia Coppola for The Virgin Suicides. It's just like, we did not talk about this when we first did this, but like, it cannot be overstated how much work she's doing, how different the work she's doing, and how she kind of like passes every like test. It's just kind of crazy how good she is at this. Virgin Suicides, I had not seen that when we first did her. So I watched it for this episode, and yeah, what a like slinky, sad, sexy, like the Josh Hartnett of it all.
Yeah.
The Week Parade of it all.
It's a vibe. I really love the movie, so I'm not saying that as a negative thing. Earlier, when I was talking about milestones in her career in terms of like what define her as an actor, this is the second one. This is the other one that she still talks about to this day, because what she says is she didn't see herself as beautiful. She didn't see herself as a beautiful person. And what Sofia Coppola did in like working with her and like telling her she was beautiful and like making her feel it inside. And she said she rode that wave for years after that. Like, no, she was like, nobody could tell me shit. Like, I was like, somebody this cool and this gorgeous and this talented, like, thinks I'm cool and beautiful. Like, and sometimes that's all it takes. And so like, I think the power that she got from working on such a female set to the idea that like, you know, she really becomes a woman in this film, sort of much like how you were talking about in Foxes with Jodie Foster becoming a woman. I think Virgin Suicides is the sort of where, you know, Kirsten Dunst becomes a woman. And I think those things have given us the Kirsten Dunst that we think of today.
I think working with Sofia at 16, Sofia Coppola, really gave me a great confidence that I don't think I would have had I not worked with her on such a role that really like was a more sexual role, like where it was more womanly, and the fact that it was Sofia, I think made me feel so good about myself in a way that I don't think many people get to experience, because she was a female director, you know? So because I was in her care and she thought I was beautiful, or she liked my teeth, or she thought I was cool, having someone I look up to so much think that of me gave me, like, I think even like red carpets and stuff. I just dressed like myself, or I was myself. I never felt like I had to dress sexy or do anything to please other men because of what I think working with Sofia gave me.
Yeah, and she's still good friends with Sofia Coppola. And like,
oh yeah,
again, this kind of speaks to like how important it is to have mentors when whatever field you're working in, but especially like in entertainment. This was like you said, Sofia was this cool older woman who said that she was beautiful and cool. And I think this movie does such a good job of just like showcasing the very innocent beauty and like, I don't want to sound like a creep, but like sexiness of like when you're a teenager and it's just like just sitting next to your crush and kind of like all that energy and vibes.
Troye Sivan, I feel the rush.
Oh, and she felt that Josh Hartnett rush.
She did. Oh yeah, she talks about, I saw a bit of an interview where she talks about having to do the like climbing on top of him and kissing him in the car, and she's like that just it wasn't who I was. Like, that's, you know, she's like, I'd kissed boys before, but like being that sort of aggressive like was so foreign to me.
And famously, he said, like, I think you bit me, and like was messing up his wig because she was just kind of like all over him. And she said that she was very embarrassed by that because she hadn't really done that before. But again, the bangers keep coming. In 2000, Bring It On, perhaps like one of the most important films of my life. I remember watching this so often, and they would play it like I was in middle school, and I remember they putting it on, and I was like, wait, I know every single line of this movie. This movie is also one of the like hefty texts that they use for Not Another Teen Movie, because it was a cultural phenomenon. She says, like, you know, none of them knew that it was going to be that big of a deal. It was a kind of this dumb cheerleading movie that they were just making in San Diego. And yeah, it turned into just this cultural force. They fucking made 10 billion straight to DVD versions, sequels.
I know somebody who directed one of them. Thank you.
Okay.
The
Watch.
She plays Torrance Shipman.
You're Captain Torrance.
Yes, and you know what's great about this movie? She's the incoming new captain of a cheer squad who finds out through the
Clovers.
Through the warning of a new recruit played by Faith, the Vampire Slayer.
Correct.
That they have stolen all of their routines from a black school, and now that school, East Compton,
Compton Clovers.
Yeah, Compton Clovers, exactly. I guess I should just went with their names because they're the Toros and the Clovers. The Compton Clovers are going to be competing against them at nationals, and they can't use their stolen routine. They have to actually achieve something on their own.
Imagine white people achieving something on their own.
I do want to mention Gabrielle Union says that the movie tested really well, but the audiences really reacted very positively to the scenes in which the characters of color were in. And so they shot a bunch of like high school stuff with the Compton Clovers, like in front of lockers, kissing boys, just for the trailer. And to confirm this, I was like, let me rewatch the original trailer, and she's fucking right.
Really?
There's a whole bunch of stuff with the Compton Clovers in the trailer, and it's very quick, but it is not in the movie at all.
Right. I mean, well, that makes sense because when they shoot the pep rally where she discovers them, I was like, they have all these fucking extras here for this 5-minute scene. Like, so I imagine that they were like, let's just do a lot of Clovers, like, you know,
coverage,
right? B-roll stuff.
But this was after the movie had already filmed. They just like went to a high school and shot with they got the actresses back. They got like a couple of other actors, and like it's really funny. Give that trailer a watch and be like,
huh?
Okay, okay. So to trick audiences into believing that the film would be a little more diverse than it is, which once again, movie's a stone cold classic, but like shady. See, the thing that I think about with that, it's like audiences can't be that dumb, but always invariably are. And it feels like if you do something like that, you can't do that shit again because the audience would never trust you, but then they always do. Yeah. So like, what is the truth, Diane?
Bring It On is a banger. You will get no bad words from me. I think she's great as Torrance. I think she again has this like innocence but fire. I think she likes playing. I think she likes like playing like kind of feisty fighter girls. She also said she watched like she was like I was a cheerleader. She says that in this film she was flying, like they were tossing her up. Right. She was doing all the things.
She said she thinks she only didn't do the like super duper complicated stuff, but but for the most part it's her.
Yeah. And she kind of is like the quote unquote straight girl, like around like this like really exaggerated cast of characters. But yeah, she's just so good. Like I think her and the iconic toothbrush scene, like she's really good at flirting. She's really good at like finding chemistry with her like castmates.
Jesse Bradford. Like the dreamiest.
Jesse Bradford, who awakened things.
Yeah, so, I mean, him bopping around with that guitar, it's like...
And his boxers. Oh.
And it's like, this shouldn't even do it for me. But...
And yet...
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Screw this. I did not sign on for Spirit Fingers.
Come on! The Spirit Fingers are great!
Yeah, whatever.
We are so screwed.
As an editor, I do also want to say that I think the film is like immaculately edited. And we're going to... She does another teen movie in the next year, which we're probably going to stop on briefly. And I was just thinking about how that film is edited versus, like, there's that amazing shot when she's sleeping over Eliza Dushku's house and she's like looking one way and there's a crossfade to him in his bed looking at her the other way. And I was like, this is the sort of stuff that we don't need the like wild, like imagination, like, but yeah, the, Bring
Gavin,
It On. So good.
Yeah. Gavin is alluding to 2001's Get Over It, which I had seen before, but largely forgot with good reason.
Yeah.
Saw it again to refresh my memory, and holy boy, this...
I remember loving it as a teen. I feel so stupid.
See, I think, and I don't know the timeline, but I imagine the Weinsteins saw She's All That.
Yeah. The Weinsteins produced She's All That.
Yeah, okay, and they were like, let's do that.
Do it again. Yeah.
And like, they're like, Shakespearean teen remakes are really hot right now. 10 Things I Hate About You was happening. Like, so we get Over It, which is A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yes, poorly done.
Except it's the most fucking stupid version ever. Cisco's here. Vitamin C is here. Shane West is here.
Cisco's here, barely dances. Vitamin C is here only as like a muse at the beginning and the end. Like,
yeah. I mean, well, like, so I will say there was someone on this movie who was like, oh, like Shakespeare, like there's a, that starts with a song and it ends with a song, and like,
right,
yeah, and so like,
there's ideas.
There are ideas. I think there are too many ideas. And like Martin Short is doing a lot, and
what I'm alluding to is he has all these like fantasy sequences that sort of pop out like actual visuals,
bubbles,
like thought bubbles, and it's like, no, that's so hokey. Like, we don't need, like, find a better way to visualize that. Like,
I think unfortunately also this is just like it hit right when like this was the era when millennial, like, we were kids. But we were obsessed with like 70s culture. It's kind of what's happening right now, right? Like kids are obsessed with like millennial culture. We at the time were obsessed with like fucking disco groovy, blah, 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 blah. And like it is just so bad. It is so bad. Let's Get Over It. And I'm over it.
Oh, wait, just real quick, though, I do have to say two things. One, she has since said she only did it because it gave her an opportunity to sing. She has gone on record as saying, like, she doesn't ever really want to put out an album. She said, I think this is a really funny quote. In 2007, she said she's no intention to release albums, saying, it worked when Barbra Streisand was doing it, but now it's a little cheesy. I think it works better when singers are in movies. And so, like, she has no intention of like doing a full album. She has done other things. She did a song for the Cat's Meow, which is coming up. She sings in Spider-Man 3. And she did do 2 songs on Jason Schwartzman's Coconut Records album with him. But like, she was never going to be a pop girly. She was never going to be a Mandy Moore. Was not what she was going for. But I do think it's funny that she only did Get Over It for that reason. And the other thing I wanted to say is, like, no chemistry with Ben Foster at all, which is he's the weirdest casting in the world.
He is, because he now is such a like an indie weirdo. And I guess though at the time though, he was just like, yeah, I'm going to be the like character actor, like weird looking guy who's not like Shane West, but the underdog. We get Crazy Beautiful, which is like, okay, I'm white, you're Mexican, isn't that crazy?
Did you feel this? And I'm sure you must have at some point. That movie is about the wrong person in that couple.
It's just, yeah.
Like his story is infinitely more interesting, and they make it about her. And but I did put a pin in something towards the beginning of the episode where we talked about her mom being protective. Crazy Beautiful is supposed to have a nude scene, a topless scene, and Kirsten Dunst was going to go ahead with it, and her mother was like, absolutely not. We are not doing that. Thank you very much. No, thank you.
She was like, oh, you think because you're 18 now you get to show your boobies on film?
Right.
No.
And due to her mother's interference, which I think is a positive, like, and listen, Kirsten has done nude scenes, semi-nude scenes. I believe she said there's an entire nude scene that she shot for Marie Antoinette that Sofia Coppola didn't use. But like, I think that was the right decision at the time. I think that was
for this,
especially
movie,
for that movie.
Please, I don't know. This era to me, like post Bring It On, is a little shaky quaky for me. You know, so we get Over It, Crazy Beautiful, The Cat's Meow.
Yeah,
it's just she's searching. It feels like she's searching.
I mean, she couldn't have passed up that role in The Cat's Meow though, because that was Peter Bogdanovich. At that time, everybody thought that was going to be Peter Bogdanovich's last movie. Like, she's playing Marianne Davies. Like, it has all these old Hollywood connections. She gets to sing in it. Like, I think the stars sort of aligned on that. And I still I hold a better place in my heart for that movie than it probably deserves, because it is a little stodgy.
These three movies all come out in 1 year. She is so booked and blessed. 2001, busy. And, you know, it's kind of crazy beautiful because she hasn't even had her biggest success yet. And that's coming up next in 2002. She gets cast as Mary Jane Watson in Spider-Man. Spider-Man, along with X-Men, kind of are often thought of as like the reason why we have the modern superhero boom of movies. Obviously, there were superhero movies before, but like not in this way.
They paved the way after Blade, and I do think that it can never be stressed enough that like Blade's success gives us X-Men, X-Men gives us Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man just like kicks the fucking door open.
Yeah, she talks about how it was Tobey Maguire who saw like an ad with her in it for like Gap or whatever, and told the producers, hey, what if we ask to do a screen test with Kirsten? And I think she was in like Europe filming The Cat's Meow, and they flew out there to do a screen test. And I think she gives like a really good interview where she's like, she did an audition and like forgot like her CD case or something.
Yes.
So she runs back in to get it, and kind of like, just like, I fucking nailed that. Like they're obsessed with me.
Like, sorry, I forgot my CD case. And I could tell in their faces. I was like, you did it. You nailed it. Spider-Man was kind of being treated as an indie almost at first with the creatives. It was Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire. So I thought, wow, this is cool. They're gonna try and make something, you know, really interesting, meaningful. And I knew it would be life-changing.
It's a give and take for me. You know, like, I think at the time I was like really obsessed with it. Going back, it's just kind of like, wow, it was so novel. You know, with everything that they were doing. I certainly think like diminishing returns. Certainly, the third one is horrendous.
Here's the things I'll say about that. First of all, I need to do some recanting. In our original episode, I gave my 1-star review to the entire Spider-Man trilogy. I still don't think she's amazing. I think the older I've gotten, I understand why, because she is, especially watching all of these movies in such a compressed time period, she is very much the girl next door. And that's really what you want for Mary Jane. And yes, Mary Jane becomes a model and an actress, but like, she needs to possess that like innocent quality that Kirsten Dunst like projects everywhere. I think the second Spider-Man is the pinnacle of the series, so I don't know if diminishing returns is necessarily true, because I think the first one is like...
You're probably right.
The first one's not fun to rewatch, and I've said this for years. I don't think it's fun. The third one, as you said, is horrendous. And so I think the second one is really like prime Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still feel really bad about that, because once again, I still don't think she's great. I think that scene where she's like begging Peter Parker to tell him that he loves her is delivered with the flattest, and it
Yeah.
should be like really deep, and she's just like, tell me you love me.
I
Like,
think,
but
I just don't think. I think you're right. I don't think she's good in this role. I think it's because though, like, there is no character there. It's just
right.
girl.
And she's tried, in a wig, and she's tried. She's talked about how, like, you know, when you see Mary Jane come out of her house and you hear people yelling in her house, like, you get the idea that there's like something wrong in her home life. And that's interesting, and that should like let you in on. But you're right. The character's thin. It's thin on the ground. It's thin in the air. It's thin all around. Like,
yeah, I think in the subsequent Spider-Man movies, they gave a lot for Emma Stone to do. They gave a lot for Zendaya to do.
Yeah,
and good. Like it was needed.
Kiss me. Kiss you.
I need to know something. Just one kiss.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which we talked a lot about in our Jim Carrey episode. Great movie, excellent.
She's so good in it too.
Yep, the second Spider-Man. And then also in 2004, she also comes out in Wimbledon, the challengers of its day.
Yes, exactly.
But
instead of a love triangle, it's just a love duology, a love straight line.
It's like, do I love tennis or this person?
Or Paul Bettany.
Yeah. Honestly, I remember watching this when it came out and thinking Paul Bettany was so hot. I was like, oh my God, the way that these tennis players run around and sweat and pick up their little shirts and their little shorts.
She was single-handedly responsible for Paul Bettany being cast. Basically, she agreed to do the movie under the like pretense that she would get to pick the male lead.
Amazing.
And they were like, okay, and she's like, him. And obviously she clearly has a thing for blondes. Just
saying. And I think he's great. I think they're both great.
Yeah. It's fine. I had fun. Whatever.
Yeah. Right.
I just feel bad that Sam Neill had to do like an American accent, which is maybe not his forte, but
she does fucking Elizabethtown, which hey boy.
Oh no.
Cameron Crowe, fucking
the
Cameron,
scene. I mean,
no.
Cameron, no. That speaking of also people having to do terrible American accents, you know, fucking Legolas, like, you don't understand. I didn't succeed. And she has that terrible scene where she's like, you failed. You failed.
So you failed.
No, you don't get it.
All right. You really failed. You 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 think I care about that?
Cameron is literally trying to just fucking remake Jerry Maguire. And it's just like, oh, God. Oh, I don't know what his deal is with like these straight men who are like disappointing or whatever, and like searching for them.
It's called looking in a mirror, Louis. That's what it is. That's what his deal is. He wakes up every morning and he sees one.
He says, Father, please forgive me, Daddy. Thankfully, she rebounds in 2006 with Marie Antoinette. She collaborates with Sofia Coppola again. The movie kind of has become this like cult favorite.
Yeah.
At the time, it was just like this radical, like, you know, punk rock take on this very famous story.
Surprisingly did better in France than it did in the United States. I don't think money-wise, but the French critics liked it better, which is wild because it's very much an American take.
Yeah. But I think it's so well done. I think she's really great.
Oh, yeah.
I think her and Sophia just have like this secondhand, you know, ability to communicate what they want. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's the rare beautiful gowns movie that also has substance.
Yes, truly beautiful gowns.
It just feels like this era post Spider-Man 3, she takes a downshift.
We the next movie, like All Good Things, we talked about in a Ryan Gosling episode. I think she's very good in it. I think Ryan Gosling is. There is a gap. There's a gap between 2008 and 2010. She checks into a treatment center in Utah for depression. She is so depressed at this point in her life that she decides she needs some actual help. And she leaves the center and to go make All Good Things. 2 months after making that movie, she felt the need to like actually go to the press and be like, hey, listen, this is what I went there for. It's not about alcohol abuse or drug abuse. And she said, quote, now that I'm feeling stronger, I was prepared to say something. Depression is pretty serious and should not be gossiped about. And I just wanted to point that out, that like, I'm glad that she like came forward and talked about that. I don't think many people in her position would. And I think it's an important thing to be like, hey, like, I'm working on my mental health. Like, if you see yourself reflected in that, like, know that you're not alone, because depression's a very real and serious thing. And she's right. It shouldn't be gossiped about.
I just really was very much more a people pleaser, you know? I think you're just growing up in that industry. You're wanting to do good for the director, wanting to do good for your other act. Like, there's a lot of pleasing. And I think that starts to affect someone unconsciously or whatever and can hit you over the head. And I think that, like, you know, it's something that I think is just like part of being a human being, you know?
And it also, I think, is telling or informs what's to come.
Yes.
So after All Good Things, in 2011, she stars in Melancholia, by Lars von, how do you say his last name, Gavin?
Trier?
Yeah.
You had it.
I had it. I was just not sure. A Gorgina film about depression. It's a rough movie, but beautiful, visually kind of inventive, very quiet movie. And she gets, you know, really rave reviews. I mean, this is just like her taking a complete left turn. You know, no one really saw All Good Things, like whatever. So doing this, making a big splash after, you know, the Spider-Man movies, which was the last like kind of big splashy thing. I think it's really important. She was putting down, like, she's like, I've fucking been in this industry for a really long time. I can do anything I want to do.
Yes.
And she fucking showed those girls.
And I will say that, you know, Melancholia was my 5-star review in our original episode. I still really love it. I think she's amazing in it. And she's talked about how Lars von Trier like really wanted to focus on like the bits of depression that people don't talk about, like how it is hard to take a shower, like how it is hard to feed yourself when you're that sad. And that, like, you know, I connect to that movie way more than I should, but I do think it's this really beautiful portrait. In addition to the fact that, like, it's a woman who's so depressed that she can't bring herself to feel the end of the world.
Yeah.
Which is also occurring.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really like beautiful, tragic, terrible thing going on. Wonderful film.
The earth is evil. We don't need to grieve for it. What? Nobody will miss it.
In 2012, she makes Upside Down with LOL Jim Sturgis. Remember him?
Talk about people that should stop. Anyways. Sorry.
I did not watch this for the first time, but I watched it for this one.
Me too.
And girl, what the fuck is going on in this movie? They said, I have an idea. But like an idea a movie does not make.
Right. They spend literally the first 20 minutes tripping over themselves to explain every facet of this reality, and then basically they're just like, actually, LOL, magic, whatever.
Yeah, they're like, okay, so there's gravity, and then inverse gravity. But if you go into the inverse gravity, you're going to turn to fire. But if you,
I mean, one of the first lines in the movie is Jim Sturgis being like, it's possible to fall up or trip down. Like, I was like, no, babes, let's not do this.
All I could think of was like, this movie probably, I'm sure the person who wrote and directed this had an entire fucking like binder of all the things.
Like a cork board with just so many strings on it.
and honestly, I bet it makes sense. But like, I'm sure Hollywood was like, cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha, like, and so this movie, again, beautiful gowns. Like,
I don't think it ever made sense, Louis. I love that you're trying to make excuses for it. I truly don't.
I think it probably once made sense, and it probably would make sense as like a long fucking miniseries. But like this,
a Sci-Fi Channel miniseries, like
literally on Sci-Fi. That's exactly what I was thinking. But like, there's just too much work to be done. You know, like I don't understand how they're falling up and down. They're carrying things. It's such a fucking clusterfuck movie.
The reason we have gravity is because planets revolve. Anyways, I don't.
Nope. We can't talk about it. Nope. In 2012, she does Bachelorette, which was my 5-star review. I've seen this movie maybe 6 more fucking times since that episode. Still bangs, still slaps.
Can I apologize to you? Because I said the words, I don't like this movie on the original episode.
Wow.
And I was wrong.
And you were wrong.
And I rewatched it, and I think I get it more. And I love her performance specifically as well. I mean, that scene to go from Melancholia to this, where she's playing a similar variation on a character.
Yes.
When she's shoving, I mean, basically, like, the plot of this movie, for those who don't know, is like it's her and Lizzie Kaplan and Isla Fisher, and they're friends with
Rebel Wilson,
and so they asked to be part of her wedding, and they're awful people. They're truly awful people. But when Isla Fisher has attempted to kill herself,
correct,
by swallowing pills, and she's shoving her fingers down her throat to make her throw up, and the guy from The Office or whatever asks, like, you use, because she's like, she's fine, I used to do this to myself all the time, and he's like, you used to do that to yourself all the time? Why? And she goes, I wanted to be beautiful. I broke. I was like,
yep.
What the fuck? But
I think this movie, the reason why like I love it so much is that it moves at a breakneck pace.
Oh yeah.
It
never stops.
There is no time. And even though there's a lot of like obvious like grief and sadness lying underneath all of these very broken people, there is just no time. There is no time for us to be sad. There is no time for me to go through my trauma of being like a young woman. There's no time for me to like digest that I have a pill problem, that I am anorexic, that I like was a horrible friend, because society doesn't give me time. I need to fucking be on my shit at all times. I think it's funny. I think it's sad. I think it's prickly. It's fucking great. It is bangs. Bachelorette wasn't a really big hit. I think it kind of got lost in the bridesmaids of it all. People thought it was going to be a lot sweeter. It is not a sweet film. She's kind of like slowing down again. She does The Two Faces of January. In 2014, she is in Fargo.
I was going to say she's slowing down because she's decided I can start doing some TV, you know? Yeah. And I talked a little bit about Fargo in our very first episode. I still think she's amazing in it. I still think the second season of Fargo is the best season out of all 4 of them that have there's been 5 now. I just haven't watched the 5th one. Truly amazing. She meets Jesse Plemons on the set. As she says, you know, it starts out as like an intellectual crush. Like she recognizes a lot of herself in him, and the way that they communicate as actors. And yeah, I love her fucking performance in Fargo. It's great.
She does Midnight Special in 2016. She also does Hidden Figures in 2016. She's not a big part of it, but she's that movie, which is like, again, white people who are good and figure out that racism is bad. Huh.
Yeah.
She, in 2017, she does again with Sofia Coppola, The Beguiled.
Yes. Which I rewatched today for the first time since 2017, and she's so good in it. And she's, you know, the Beguiled is this kind of perplexing tale of like this isolated women's boarding school during the Civil War on the southern side, and they encounter a northerner played by our former subject Colin Farrell, who is injured and sort of seeking shelter so he can recuperate, and just sort of the bad shit that happens after that. Her character Edwina Dabney is a teacher there, and is like a real sort of stark contrast to Nicole Kidman's headmistress, but is like kind of innocent, but also kind of really structured and really like put together, but has this like deep dark longing in her to be like, what's the best way to put it? To be like known by a man, essentially. Like,
ooh, I like that.
You get strong virgin vibes from her throughout the whole movie.
I don't want you to leave.
I don't want to leave. I love you, Edwina.
Please don't ever say that unless you mean it.
This is also the era where, so her and Jesse get married. She has 2 kids kind of in quick succession in this era, 2017-ish. And so she's not doing a lot of work. She does Woodshock, which I've just was like, no, I'm not going to watch that. But
it's not great, but it's her friends, Kate and Laura Malavi, direct it. And here's where we can talk about this. Famously, she does Hollywood Reporter Actresses Roundtable, and there's a great moment where Juliana Margulies trash. You know what? I'm gonna go on record being like, every time we've brought up Juliana Margulies, even before we really knew she was trash, I've kind of shit on her on this show, and I just want people to know that I was right.
Unlike Gavin talking about Bachelorette, he was right about Juliana Margulies.
On this one, I was right. But in that THR roundtable, Juliana Margulies is like, there's not enough woman directors, and it's so hard to work with a woman director because there just aren't any working.
Still, I mean, you just said there's no women there's been no women directors on your show. It's shocking.
You know what's so funny? I've worked with so many female directors.
Yeah, really? Have you?
Many. But I think because I have really, I love women so much. I have really strong female relationships. And I've worked, like, Little Women was a female. Sofia Coppola, obviously. I'm going to work with her again this year. Like, my girlfriends who did their first movie, like, and I've done Leslie Headland. Like, I've worked with so many female directors. And I think it's, like, up to us as actresses, too, to like...
What's the...
I think to, like, give the opportunity to first-time directors. I mean, most of those people, it was their first time.
I see what you're saying.
So I think that's why... You know, and also I like, sometimes I'm just like, I just want to work with women. Like, I'm done. I'm like, I don't want to like work with all these dudes all the time. And then I find it. You just got to find it and like create it for yourself.
And it's such a great moment because it's like, you are the one who's not putting in the work. Like, you can't just sit there and be like, why won't the system change?
Right.
Like,
or like sitting around me like, why hasn't Jane Campion called me? Like,
right.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, and yeah, fucking... In that interview, she's like, I've worked with so many female directors, so many, and I seek them out, and that's why she is that girl. Okay,
absolutely.
So she slows down a little bit. She does her own Showtime series on becoming a god in Central Florida,
which had rave reviews and was totally killed by COVID. And I believe she initially signed on because Yorgos Lanthimos was going to produce and direct the first episode, and then it got picked up. That show went through some tumult to get to where it was. It was originally an AMC show. Yorgos was interested. It then became a YouTube Red show, and Yorgos was like, I'm out. And then Showtime bought it, and that's what, you know. But I've never seen it. I've only heard really great things about it.
She was nominated for a Golden Globe, so there's that. Speaking of Jane Campion, in 2021, Power of the Dog comes out. She stars in opposite her husband, Jesse Plemons. And it's, you know, maybe one of her most complex roles.
It's so good.
Very, very good. I'll never forget my mom like calling me one day and being like, did you see that movie about the dog? I was like, Mom, what are you talking about? But it was this movie, and she really liked it.
Do you know that she was not even in the running originally? Yeah, that this was Jesse Plemons was cast in this movie, and she was very jealous because Jane Campion's somebody that she's always wanted to work with, and then the situations changed with the original actress that was cast in the role, and Kirsten was added to the cast, and you know, it was a true highlight for her, delight, you know, to work with Jane Campion.
Yeah, she says like that it was kind of, it felt very corny doing the like little flirtatious dance with Jesse and his character, just because it's like, oh well, we have 2 kids, like this is so dumb. Like, but I think her opposite fucking Cumberbatch is just so electrifying and like spooky. She's a woman on the verge, losing her mind, trying to be this perfect woman, trying to I just think it's so good and delicious. He's just like, well, you're not a master musician.
Right. And she's talked about having to go to that place of feeling like there's a great actors on actors with her and Jamie Dornan, who was in Marie Antoinette with her. And she talked about like having like for The Power of the Dog, she really had to go to that really bad place where like you see somebody doing something that you love doing better than you, and that sort of jealousy that not only like takes over and makes you angry, but also like disables you. And that's, you know, she sees this life that she thought she's capable of having, and it ruins her. She becomes alcoholic.
One of the deepest, like most miserable things I would feel as an actor is working with someone where they just like trump you with their artistry in such a way and like make you feel like shit about it too. It's just like, and for me, I was just that failure of something you thought you were good at, and then you just go, oh, I'm done with this actually. Like I can't even do this anymore. Like, because I'll never be even close to the genius that you are, you know? So it's kind of like...
Yeah, but I mean, you don't want to be thinking that way, but I guess that's where our mind...
I kind of had to.
Yeah,
I mean, Rose is so, she really lets, you know, that like infiltrate her brain in such a way. I think, you know, when you're in a position to be gaslit by a partner, a boss, whatever the situation is, I think you yourself are probably in a pretty vulnerable position to begin with, and then that person of power goes, I got you. I know how to like mess with you.
I love her also talking about acting choices, like the scene where she can't play the piano. What she did before then is she would like hold ice, so then she would go to like sit at the piano and not really be able to move her fingers, or like in order to mimic the drunkenness, she would, before Jane Campion would say action, she would spin around and around and around in circles. And then Jane Campion would yell action. She'd stop and like run into the scene.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, these are brilliant like ways of like just psyching your body out without having to be like weird, extreme. Like, I'm Abraham Lincoln and I'm texting Sally Field in Abraham Lincoln voice, you know?
Yeah, I mean, she's talked about that, like, even when she was making, or she was inspired by the filmmaking in Eternal Sunshine. And just like how can we practically, you know, bring this to the table and put it on film? And she said Michel Gondry was just, you know, like kind of the master of that, using practical effects to make this really out there sci-fi thing. And I think using these practical things with the ice and turning around, like it's just so smart. She's a smart gal.
It is smart, yeah.
And just this year, she was in Civil War, this kind of dystopian thriller about a civil war in the U.S. She's a photojournalist. Me and Gavin gave our kind of initial reactions. We saw it for our Patreon exclusive, Gavin and Louis Go to the Movies. I think we liked it until we didn't.
Yeah. It's funny because I've seen interviews with her where she kind of likes it until she did. Like, she talks about shooting the ending of that movie, and she's like, and it becomes like an action thing, and she's like, and it's not really what I'm interested in. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. Like that she could even sort of acknowledge that.
I'm so not an action girl, you know, like, let's get in there. Who cares? Even hearing like the blanks hit the tanks, it's like was so loud. Yeah, so that's good that I did something that's very out of my comfort zone, because it was like hell for me to do things like that. And some people get high off of it, I think, and I think that's what my character is, you know, adrenaline junkie. But I personally really, after those 2 weeks, I was a little bit like, whoa.
But at the same time, she's also kind of trying to be like, oh, at the end, she's, you know, so shell-shocked the PTSD is coming back. Where I didn't really get that read. That's not how I took it. And I think, honestly, like the movie kind of fails that character in the end.
Yes, I completely agree.
But if you want to hear more about Civil War, you can go to our Patreon for that. So there's not a lot of, like, I guess, personal things to talk about. I mean, like I said, she's married to Jesse Plemons. They have 2 kids. She has, you know, supported... you know, found like the Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation, breast cancer awareness. all around, she supports Democrats. So
and like she was a quote unquote Bernie bro in
Yeah.
2020. So like,
yeah. So
she's also in 2011 she acquired her German citizenship, which I kind of love that she was like, in case I need an out.
yeah,
Like,
just in case.
and she said she did it so she could film in Europe without a problem, but like,
We know, girl.
we know, girl.
So that kind of gets us to now. And maybe it's a good time for us to get into our picks. So why don't we go into our 1-star reviews? What was your 1-star review back in the day?
It was the Spider-Man trilogy.
That's right.
Which I still feel a little bad about. I still don't think she's amazing in those movies, but I like understand it a little bit better now, especially like having just sort of gone through her oeuvre and seeing the course of her coming into that sort of like innocent teen. But I can't think of a better movie to give such a dubious honor to than 2012's Upside Down. I know we talked about it a lot in the rewind. Yeah, I truly hated this movie, but specifically, like if we were to talk, we talked a little bit about the plot, which is, it's a guy who lives on one planet that is it's a 2-planet homeworld that has dual gravity. He lives in the poor part of the planet. She lives in the rich part of the planet.
I don't even think so. There's one planet that's poor and there's one planet that's rich, is the thing.
Yes. Yeah.
And the rich planet is like taking the resources from the poor planet for whatever reason.
So they can remain rich. It's a capitalist fable. And as a young lovers, they meet each other at like a kind of place where the planets kind of meet closely.
Oh, they're like both on mountaintops or something.
Yeah. He's able to like pull her down for a little bit, but someone catches them, and why this is a murderable offense is never explained in the film, but someone catches them and she falls back down to her planet and hits her head and gets amnesia. And here's my problem with this. The movie decides she no longer has to be a character for the rest of the film after that. She is solely an object of desire for the like chemistry suck that is Jim Sturgis, who is like spends his entire life trying to find her, pretending to like coming up with this anti-aging cream, pretending to like exist in her part of the world, which by the way, you can't exist in one part of the world or the other, because eventually the gravity catches up to you and you burst into flames.
Correct.
Just a normal thing that happens. It's
even though literally the Earths are like so close to each other,
right?
For some reason, when you flip upside down, it's bursting into flames.
But also should be rotating. but anyways, I digress. So my problem is she is given not like she's the epitome of go on girl, give us nothing. She's given nothing to work with. And he like she doesn't remember him. He like goes and pretends that he's this guy there and has lunch with her and starts being real creepy about it, like, hey, we knew each other. And she's like, why are you doing this? And
we know each other.
What are you doing?
But we really know each other. I mean,
Why are you doing this to me?
And whatnot. And very Celine Dion, it's all coming back to me now. And she gets there, and eventually they try and run off together, but once again people start shooting at them, even though it's never explained why two people can't coexist in the and they split up, and he eventually gives off his anti-gravity, anti-aging serum, but leaves off one important recipe, so they can't make it without him, and so they have to give him what he wants. And so he's able to reunite with her, and she's like, guess what? I'm pregnant, which is the most mind-boggling bit of it, because we have seen every second that they have spent together on screen. But there is never a like thought that we have not seen any moment they have been together. So was it just like a quickie and a fucking like,
but also like how the bursting into flames only like is a use for like, I guess, storytelling, because like how so he allegedly spent enough time up there to have sex with this woman, and like, but didn't burst into flames.
Right.
It's just
and she can suddenly exist in his world because he knocked her up, and they're
Yeah.
like, and she's like, the doctors say it's fine because I'm pregnant.
Also, the serum he's made, he gave it to like his buddy from up there, and has realized, oh my god, you can put the serum in water, and we're 90% water. And so, like, I guess in the end, their love changes everything and the serum changes because now you can just drink this fucking water and you can traverse both Earths. It's
and she's pregnant with twins because get it, like, double
upside down.
I hate this movie. I hate it.
I hate this movie. I hate this movie too. It's so boring, which is bizarre because I will say, like, who I don't recognize that man, whoever he is, but
Juan Diego Solanas.
Like, they must have spent so much time being like the visual of like two people reaching different Earths and like touching each other.
Yeah.
Beautiful visual.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. And there's a lot of moments where like there's one scene where he's like falling and then the camera turns upside down, then he falls into the other ocean. That's cool. But like,
yeah, some of the effects are really neat. But if I mean, I know this was 2012, but if you were to tell me that this was written by AI, I'd be like, yes, correct.
But I just think like this is kind of like a thought that like I would have had in 7th grade, you know, like,
right.
Like, oh yeah, gravity. Like this needed so much more time in the oven. And again, the space to like actually become a full fucking sensical movie.
Yeah.
Because
I don't even think it needed more time in the oven. I think it needed to be taken out of the oven and thrown into the trash. I think it was irresponsible to carry on with this and like unfixable, and yeah.
It's very bad. Very good pick, Kevin. I certainly thought about that for my pick. My pick though is 2001's Get Over It.
I thought it might be. Do you remember what your 1-star review was for our very first episode?
I sure the fuck do. We didn't even mention it. It was 2000's The Crow Salvation.
Yes.
Which is the sequel to the very popular movie The Crow.
It's the third quel. The threequel.
Right. Starring Eric Mabius.
Yes. Yeah. We don't have to talk about it very much. I was just curious if you remembered.
No, I did remember. It would be like me choosing like Bring It On 3
right.
as like my 1-star review for like whoever's in that fucking movie, like for Hayden Panettiere or whatever. And then I watched Get Over It for this, and I was like, oh, kind of in the same vein. This movie sucks hard, and also we don't see her in this like kind of like an upside down, like her as just the object of desire, kind of so sad and pathetic. The character that she plays here is just pathetic. She's like the girl who's like, well, maybe there is someone who like, you know, that does like you, wink, 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 you know. It's just so her name's Kelly, and the story is this guy Burke who's like, I can't believe I have this beautiful girlfriend Allison, they date forever, and then she dumps him and he's like despondent. She falls in love with Shane West, who's like this British asshole.
He's not really British though.
Right,
that's the whole
right.
Yeah.
He's not British. He's like in a boy band.
Yeah.
But in high school, whatever. The school play is they're doing Midsummer's Night's Dream, so there's kind of like this in maze storytelling.
I'm sorry. I believe the play is called A Midsummer Night's Rockin' Eve. Thank you.
Right. I'm so sorry. With 12 original songs by Martin Short. It is just this clusterfuck of a millennium nightmare. You know, the amount of fucking pedal pusher pants and vests. Everyone's in this movie though. I mean, they thought that, I mean, the formula was set, right? By She's All That and Something's Hate About You. So Mila Kunis is in this.
Right.
Who else?
Colin Hanks plays Kirsten Dunst's older brother.
Yes.
And there's this weird subplot about him being like super protective of her that is from a completely different, like, feels like it was plucked from a different Shakespeare thing. He's like playing the level of protection he wants to give his sister is like the father from 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
It's wild.
Yeah, Zoe Saldana's in this movie as well. Like we mentioned, Cisco, Susie Kurtz,
Carmen Electra.
The Carmen Electra. Oh my God, it's kind of just fucking wild.
The joke about Ben Foster's parents, Susie Kurtz and Ed Begley Jr., being like sex therapists who are also hosts of a talk show and being cool with everything he does, wears so thin. That is a card that should have only been played like twice in the movie. Yeah. And literally they show up every 15 minutes to be like, you're throwing a party? Why didn't you invite us?
Yeah. Oh, do you need to go jerk off now? Like, it's just like over and over. Ben Foster is also just like, the characters, again, everyone in this movie is so pathetic. It's just, you know, I don't think anyone here really knows or had a sense of like what actually being a teenager is like. And I will say at the beginning, like the Vitamin C song, they do September. Is it September or is that the end song?
The song September's the end song. The opening song is Love Will Keep Us Together by Is it Captain and Tennille?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like there's some style and like, you know, a point of view. But then it just all goes downhill from there because they did not have a handle on the style. It's just all over the place. To get to Kirsten, I don't think she kind of had a grasp of the character because I don't think there was a character.
Yeah.
It's just like, I want to be a singer. And like, what if I have like my original songs? And I'm like, any self-respecting teenage girl would not have put up with this bullshit from this guy who so clearly is in love with this other girl. Like, it's just, it makes the character so thin and vapid and stupid. And
I swear, if Allison doesn't appreciate this.
Then what? Anyway, I've heard you do the dialogue. You're fine.
Yeah, but what about the singing?
Well, the music sucks. Especially my song.
Well, why didn't you rewrite it?
Oh, Forrest Oates would never go for it.
Kelly, you're the best one in the play. You know more about the stuff than he does.
Yeah, but he doesn't see it that way.
Forrest Oates just cast me as a lead. He's an idiot, Allison.
My name is Kelly.
What did I say?
Allison.
No, I didn't.
You did.
I'm sorry.
Prepare to die.
I think for me, the thing that like nailed how badly she's written is her like sort of lack of reaction to when she shoots him with a crossbow.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought it was a prop. And that's about it.
Yeah. And the movie is filled with bits and gags that just are so kind of cheap. There's a dog that won't stop humping things. It's like, okay. Yeah, it was a flop and it was deserved. And I love a teen movie, and this is just
that's how you know it's
that's how you know how bad it is. Were there other things, Gavin, that you did not really like?
I really hate How to Lose Friends and Alienate People, and I think for a very similar reason, where she's just the object of desire, and sometimes it feels like she's not even connecting with the words she's saying because she's so just over being in this movie. And yeah, I mean, that's my other big one, I guess, really. Like I said, I don't think I could truly give it to the Spider-Man movies anymore. I think I've sort of moved beyond that. But yeah, like those are the two I think of. Well, yeah.
Elizabethtown.
Yes. Yeah. Elizabethtown. Sorry. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like
also Lucky Town, which is a movie we did not even talk about. And she plays like she's the daughter of a famous poker player, and she like travels to Vegas with Vincent Carthiser. And she like in the end of the movie ends up in a strip club, and I was just like, what is this like low budget Skinamax 90s nonsense? Yeah, that one's pretty awful and wretched.
Yeah, it's wild. Like she really was working so much from like 98 to 2001, 2-ish. Like there's so much stuff going on, and it's so random. Like, you know,
yes,
from Crazy Beautiful to Bring It On to The Virgin Suicides and Dick. I mean, to Lucky Town. Just a lot going on. So yes. Okay. Cool. Let's move out of this then and talk about our 5-star reviews.
For my previous 5-star review, it was in fact Melancholia. I do still want to give a shout out to Melancholia. I think her performance is it's really hard to beat that kind of like deep studied depression, and to be able to really create a character out of somebody who's like really just shutting down emotionally and just really going through it. And the only emotions she's really experiencing are like anger and sadness. I think that's a really hard role to beat. But I actually do have a different one this time, which is, once again, not to say I was wrong about Melancholia. It still holds a great place in my heart. But rewatching 2006's Marie Antoinette, I just truly think there's something really special. As you mentioned earlier, like, it's very clear she has a shorthand with Sofia Coppola, that Sofia Coppola really is able to bring some of the best work out of her. And I think she also challenges Sofia Coppola because in watching Marie Antoinette, which is literally the first time I've seen it since 2006. Shout out to my sister, Nikki. I remember renting it on your TV in Albany and us watching it. And I thought it was good back then, but I just really was like, this is really a fantastic character study. And the only reason I was bringing up that she brings out something special in Sofia Coppola, this time I recognized a lot of the movie Priscilla in Marie Antoinette. And I still think Marie Antoinette is like light years ahead of Priscilla, because I think there's so much that Kirsten brings to the role with just like a look or like an emotion or the way that she says something, without you having to feel this like heavy background of this character. And that's something that Priscilla lacks. When I saw Priscilla, I was like, my problem is that I still feel like I never got to meet this girl. I never got to experience. And Marie Antoinette, there's like a full 3D character there. I also think it's a really fascinating. We live in a time where we're talking about the age of our leaders. We keep complaining. We keep voting for these old people. And I think what's really fascinating about Marie Antoinette is it's like, hey, look, there was a time where we were literally having countries led by teenagers.
Yeah.
We were literally
and they just wanted to fuck.
Yeah, exactly. We were literally putting children in these roles of power. And I think that's a really fascinating thing to go to. Yes, it is a film that lacks often historical accuracy, even though there were people on set to like make sure the things that were happening were historically accurate. And I know that was one of the big complaints, that she does all this, modern music in it, modern looks. There's that famous "I Want Candy" montage where all the shoes, and in the background of one of the scenes is like a pale blue Converse, a pair of, and to like give you the idea, like, this girl's a fucking teenager. She's a teenager. Like,
yeah.
But I think Sofia Coppola is not interested in historical accuracy as much as she was interested in honesty, a deeper honesty of these characters, of what it must have felt like to be a child, to be taken from your home, to be basically sold into marriage. The very first scene, she's being told as a member of the royal of Austria, she has to marry the king of, the soon-to-be king of France, and like crossing over the border and having them take her pug away and then take literally everything away, like her underwear, everything. They're like, everything has to be French, which, by the way, historically, that is true. When they crossed the border into France, they did take her pug away, but somebody was smart enough to secret the dog away, and he was able to give the dog back to her a couple months later, so she was reunited with her pet. That's a true real life story of Marie Antoinette. Yes, the movie, like, maybe, I think because it's like about them as kids, maybe does gloss over the fact that like she is bankrupting the nation. Like, they are living these insanely lavish lives, and it is actually hurting the nation of France. And the revolution was very necessary. But I think what Sofia Coppola is trying to get at is more of a character study of what it's like to be a child who's thrust in these situations. And having to live this way. And you're right, there's a scene where her brother comes in, played by Danny Houston, and has to explain to the King of France how to fuck through the like guise of, you know, making locks and whatnot, and making keys, because that's his hobby. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's such a deep role. You know, the scene that killed me this time is having her being under so much pressure to produce an heir, and having to watch one of her friends give birth in court. And that scene, she like leaves the room and it's like a tight close up on her face, and she is in tears, and clearly like she's just shattered because she's not been able to consummate her relationship with Jason Schwartzman, and it's literally her one job. That's all she's there for, which is gross and disgusting, but that's how she thinks, like, that this is my future, this is what I have to do. And it cuts from this close up to this wide, where she is tiny in a ball in this massive ornate room, and she's just a little girl playing dress up in a doll's house. And it's beautiful filmmaking, it like the character work there, the cinematography, and then that's when it cuts into the I Want Candy montage of her just buying things to fill the void that is her life. You know, trying on shoes, having desserts, playing poker, all of the champagne. That 1, 2, 3 punch of a scene says it all, says everything you need to know about Marie and this specific version of Marie Antoinette. Yeah, I don't know. I think this movie's endlessly fascinating. I feel like I could watch it and find something new to love every time. And once again, because I am talking about Kirsten Dunst, I can't imagine this role played by anybody else.
And when they went to the queen to tell her her subjects had no bread, do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
That's such nonsense. I would never say that.
And here, you're having an orgy with quite a big group. I think I'm here sucking your toes.
Don't they ever get tired of these ridiculous stories?
Oh, and they say you gave Thomas Jefferson a special tour of your gardens. It's Jefferson admiring the royal bush.
That's awful. Can't you do something?
I'm not going to acknowledge it.
Excellent pick, Kevin. Absolutely one of her bangers. For my 5-star review, I'm so sorry, sweeties, I'm sticking with Bachelorette.
Was that your 5-star review for the original? I think it was. Yeah,
it sure the fuck was.
Wow.
I am doubling down on that. You know, she has had so many amazing roles, and we've talked, like, you know, in Heath Ledger's episode about, like, there are some iconic roles and the things that are going to go down in history. And, like, I don't think Bachelorette obviously made any waves, really. Like, I don't think it's one of her most popular films. I'll just say, like, I think Kirsten Dunst has iconic roles that will forever, you know, she'll be known for, you know, from Bring It On to Jumanji, like Melancholia. Like, she has these touchstone roles and films. I'm sticking by Bachelorette, though, because I think it is one of the few movies where she is able to employ every single thing she is good at. She's a bitch in this movie. She is feisty,
she truly is,
and angry, but she's also so fucked up and broken and sad and depressed and funny as fuck. And you can just really feel her, like, letting it rip, you know? And I think also, I mean, this cast is just, they were all on the exact same level. You got Lizzie Kaplan, Isla Fisher, Rebel Wilson, Adam Scott, fucking Ann Dowd. Hello. Joe is the other guy. Kyle Bornheimer is his name, is the actor. I think he's so good and so sweet. James Marsden. We talked about this in the James Marsden episode. Who's also getting to play a fucking dick, which is kind of great. I think what I love about this movie is that, like, no one is a good person, but this movie posits, like, who really is anyway, you know? Like, we all have fucked up tendencies, we've all had fucked up things happen to us. Like Gavin mentioned earlier, this is a movie about 3 women who are going to one of their good friends from high school, her wedding. It's fucked up though, because it's Rebel Wilson and they're all like, can you believe she's the first one to get married? She's the fat girl. They're like, I can't, Pigface is getting married. Pigface, the guy must be awful. And turns out he's not. He actually really loves her. They're in a loving relationship. And so they fuck up her wedding dress because they want to party. They do tons of fucking coke, get really wasted. They rip her dress in half and go on an all night.
Once again, as they two of them get in the dress as like a look how big she is.
Yeah,
like,
I bet you two of us can fit inside of it. They're very awful. They're awful bitches.
Okay, what we need right now is like an epically brilliant plan, you know? That's what we need. So are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go!
Leave the country. I'm gonna call Melissa, the girl we got the dress from.
Jesus H. Macy, that's a brilliant fucking
How
plan!
much cash you have? I got 5 maxed out credit cards.
I have a $20. I ripped it. I got nothing. That sums up your lives.
The entire time through the movie, they are mocking and ridiculing everyone around them because they have this kind of like, they think they're better than everyone. And she's, a doctor. She's skinny. She's beautiful. She orders a Caesar salad, but no chicken, no dressing.
Right.
It's just the fucking lettuce. And like Gavin mentioned, that scene really is kind of like the apex of it's like, what is Jenna doing? Like, that's not part of the plan. She's like, reviving a fucked up bitch wasn't part of the plan, but here we are, and just having to force, her friend to puke up all these pills that she took. I have to say that the scene of them in the pool, Isla Fisher and what's his name? Kyle. It's just she's like, wait, no, I like you. Like, what? Like, why can't let's have sex? And he's like, no, like, do you even know my name? Like, does you even care that it's me, or do you just want to get fucked up and fuck someone? And she's like, no, I know your name. And she's struggling so hard and so clear that she has. It's not that she's just like a dumb bitch. She has a problem. She has, like
the first time I saw that movie, that was the scene I connected to the most. I was like, wow. I was like, harsh, but like, yeah.
There's a lot of, is like every single character has so much to do. There's a lot of realization. Lizzie Kaplan's character, who's on this like kind of weird journey of like reconnecting with Adam Scott, who is revealed like in high school they were together and they got pregnant. She had to go get an abortion by herself. And since then has kind of been on this kind of destructive spiral journey of her own. I love it because all these things are fucked up. They fucked up. And in the end, they get the dress back, but there's blood on it, like they try to clean it, but like, and Rebel Wilson's like, what the fuck? Like, I can't believe you did this to me. Like, everyone's going to look at me and laugh at me. And I'm so embarrassed. And at the end, she says, fuck everybody. That man down there loves you. And like, she says like, no, people think I'm too fat for him. Like people don't think I deserve him. And at the end of the day, throughout all the horribleness and the shittiness, they are like still best friends. And she says, fuck everybody. Like, this is fuck them. Like we're all in the shit together and you're going to get through. And the wedding's happening and the three of the fucked up mean girls are on the bench, just kind of like exhausted. And Isla Fisher is like very casual, like, are we going to be okay, guys? And no one kind of says anything. And it's just kind of like, we don't know. I just think she's so good and she's able to just really show us the whole kaleidoscope of her range and talent. And again, the movie is just so fucking funny. Rip-roaring good time, prickly, unnerving. I think at the time, like the reviews, like women were like, I cannot believe that they did this to this woman in her dress and her wedding. It's so horrible, but I kind of fucking love it. I think it's like, yeah, like these women are crazy and there are people like this. And it's on HBO Max right now. Everyone should go watch it.
Run, don't walk. I do just real quick want to bring up, so the film's written and directed by Leslie Headland, who like is been in the pop culture area right now because she created the Star Wars The Acolyte, and because she's a woman who dares to who dares to delve into the realm of nerdery. She's been like lambasted online. All these nerds like reviewed bombed it and were like, couldn't find anything nice to say about it at all at any point in time. And it was just a very clearly sexist thing that occurred to her. And I just think it's so funny because based on this and she also, this Bachelorette originally was a play. It's part of a cycle of 7 plays that she's written that are all about the 7 deadly sins. Bachelorette is gluttony. A person who does that, she doesn't fucking care about these nerds. She truly doesn't. Like good for her. And I hope that none of that has affected her because she truly is very talented and clearly. And also, by the way, Cult of Love, which is the final in the cycle of those, which deals with pride, is coming to Broadway. And we should go see it together.
We should go see it. She also co-created Russian Doll.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great pick, Louis. I like I said, I was wrong about Bachelorette, and rewatching it made me realize it's still not, for me, it's not 5 stars, but I do appreciate it so much more. And I think I get it. I do get it. I get being awful. And I think I'm very sensitive about my weight. I'm very sensitive about people being mean about weight in media. And I think I don't think that's Leslie Headland's goal. It's certainly not she's never these people are great people. And no. I think I have to get myself in that headspace. But yeah, what an amazing performance. Was there anything else that you loved?
I mean, I think her performance in Power of the Dog is incredible, second to none.
100%.
I do have, Bring It On is a Stone Cold classic, like you said.
Yeah.
And I think she's a big part of that. I do think, Virgin Suicides is, kind of an incredible film, shocking in a lot of ways, but such a good
still to this day.
Yeah. And then the last thing I'll mention is Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say, are you not going to say Drop Dead Gorgeous? What is going on?
No. Yeah. Drop Dead Gorgeous is just, and it's crazy because there's almost too many to mention.
Yes.
If we want, I think she's really great in Interview with the Vampire. I think
that's the other two that I was going to mention was Interview with the Vampire. I think she's just really fantastic and just what a fucking complicated role for a kid. And then also, I do think more people should see All I Want to Do, even though once again I didn't love it, but I think it deserves to be in conversation with all those crazy sex movies that were coming out around that time, because it comes from the women's point of view, and to me that's more interesting. But people only care about men. And then obviously the last one I mentioned is Dick.
Love Dick so much.
Love Dick. All right, why don't we do our mixed reviews review and then get into our fast forward. So my 1-star review is 2012's Upside Down.
My 1-star review is 2001's Get Over It.
My 5-star review is 2006 Marie Antoinette.
My 5-star review is 2012's Bachelorette.
Ooh, what a good spread. The
range.
All right. The range. Why don't we get into our fast forward?
Like you said, she has Civil War that came out earlier this year. On the press cycle for that, people were asking what's next? And God bless her, she was like, I want to do more comedies. I'm ready to go back to comedies. And I think she's absolutely right because number one, she's really good at them. But number two, after Civil War and Power of the Dog, we haven't seen her in that mode in a while.
Right.
And I think it's kind of time. I think she kind of reminds me of when Rachel McAdams made Game Night, just kind of I am now entering this motherhood era of my life, but I'm still fun and engaging and cool. I desperately want her. What I desperately don't want is Marvel to stay away.
Yeah. And she has said that she's not really interested in doing more comic book movies, but Also, she's willing to do it if the paycheck is right. And I love the fact that she's basically said, like, yeah, if you want to give me enough money. And also, people asked her when the last Spider-Man came out and had all the cameos from the other Spider-Man, or when the Jumanji like reboot came out, they're like, oh, and she's like, yeah, I would do these things. No one's asked. Nobody fucking asked me.
I just think she's kind of removed herself from the A-list Hollywood like solar system. Like, I don't think her and Jesse Plemons are particularly like, let's be celebrities. That's not their kind of game. And so I don't think she's terribly interested in, like, you know, I don't think people are like, oh, let's just call Kirsten up because, you know, or she's our neighbor or whatever. Like, she's kind of, she does a job, she does the work, she's always been that way, right? Like, she's not going to the parties, she's not doing all that. It's like, she's this kind of cool girl. She's like,
I don't know if you saw the interview with her where she talked about how, like, this woman stopped her in a grocery store and was like, I miss you in movies.
I was at Bloomingdale's recently. I live in the Valley, which is so close to the studio.
Right.
But I was at Fashion Square Mall, and this woman comes up to me. I'm shopping for shoes, and she looks at me, and she, like, takes my hand. She's like, I miss you in films. I was like, well, she's like, I've seen you in the Spider-Man movies, but why don't we see you anymore? I miss you in movies. I was like, oh God. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not in, like, we didn't make a fourth movie. I've been working. Maybe you don't live around,
you're making a ton
around
of
an independent theater. I'm sorry. Like, she made me feel terrible, and also, like, yeah, just terrible, actually.
That's basically just to reinforce everything you just said.
She has a film called Rhubarb coming up. She appears in Charlie McDermott and Sarah Regis indie drama Rhubarb about two adult siblings trying their best to navigate the individual and shared grief following their beloved dog's death. And then she'll also be in The Entertainment System is Down, but from Ruben Ostlund.
You like him. He did the movie about the cruise ship and the Woody Harrelson and Class and Equity. Yeah.
And the Triangle Sadness.
Yes. And that's with Keanu Reeves, which great. And it's set on a long haul flight where the entertainment system fails, and the film will see passengers forced to face the horror of being bored, which feels like such a Ruben Ostlund. I don't know. Hopefully it's deeper than that. Like, I get it. Like, I know what he's saying, but
he loves being like, are rich people crazy? Rich people are so crazy.
Exactly. We didn't even mention, by the way, she's directed a short film. I think she directed in 2010. It played like Tribeca or whatever. And she had plans in like the like 2013 area, 2016 area to direct an adaptation of The Bell Jar. And I would love to see her do that. To, like, you know, we talked a lot last week about Jodie Foster moving into directing. I think if it's a passion of hers, if it's something that she's really interested in, I would love to see her be able to get to do that. I know, like, it seems that the ship has sailed fully on Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar, but I don't know. I would love to see her flex that muscle, because I do think she's so creative, and I think she surrounds herself with people that would support her during, you know, her first film.
I would just kill to, like, go to a dinner party with her and Jesse. I'm sure they're so cool.
Yeah. And even if they're not, they just seem so normal. That, like,
what if they're actually just very boring?
Yeah. And I'm also like, I think I would love that.
Yeah.
Honestly, too. She's also said, you know, you mentioned comedies, but she has said she desperately wants to do a musical, and nobody will cast her in a musical.
Well, musicals are so hard now. No one wants to make them.
No one wants to make them. I know, we got fucking 2 parts of Wicked coming out, and
yeah, but I mean, listen, I love Ariana Grande, but, like, it almost feels like they were like, we could only make this if we have Ariana Grande in it. Like,
yes, yeah.
Because I think what's his face got a real John Chu got a slap on the wrist after he making In the Heights with, you know, no names. And honestly, I'm not mad at that, but I do hate that In the Heights version.
I was gonna say, yeah, you don't like that movie, so but yeah, I think, I mean, obviously Kirsten's so young still.
Yes.
She's gonna be with us for a while. I think she loves being a parent. It's crazy that she's only 2 years older than me. She like loves being a parent. She loves her life. I think she lives in Austin, Texas now with her family, and like it's not Hollywood. She said it's so normal. People don't stop her to like talk about films, and yeah, I don't know. I'm just happy she's happy. Like that's what I want from her. Like she's done the hard yards already. I found a really early interview with her where it was when they were it was her on Conan O'Brien, and he was talking about her getting started in an interview with Empire. She's like, "Yeah, I've been doing this forever. I could retire. I could just retire now." And that was an interview from like 11 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I think we talked about this with Jodie. We'll probably talk about it next episode. She was able to navigate Hollywood as a young person and has not had any of the horrible things that have happened to so many young stars as they've grown up through the system. And not only that, she's continued to have success, different kinds of success, showcasing every side of her. It's just kind of a miracle. And we're so lucky, that not only was she able to be this child star, she was able to be a teen star. She's, getting Oscar nominations now. Like, yeah. It's just kind of what a fulfilling artist she must be. Like, it's just, I'm jealous and in awe of her. And I think I imagine there are a lot of fucking Juliana Margulies bitches out there who are jealous of her too. So
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I had to learn about film as I was doing it. So it was like I educated myself on, the certain Criterion Collection movies or watching incredible female performances. And so I kind of was educating myself as I was picking my own roles. And so that kind of grew as I was growing. But yeah, I think a lot of a career is just your own personal taste, really, and what, as an actor, you want to do next and not fall into some trap of repetition or what interests you. And I think that's a lot on the person.
So Kirsten, thank you for being our first and our 150th.
I feel honored to even cover her. Honestly, I truly think she's a one of a kind and really amazing. And I guess at some point I got to watch that one season of On Becoming a God in Central Florida. But if you want to contact us, well, I guess that wraps up Kirsten. But if you want to contact us, you can always find us on Twitter at The Mixed Reviews.
Also on Facebook, just type in The Mixed Reviews.
If you want to email us, write us a little longer form note, you can always email us at reviewsmixed@gmail.com.
You can find us over on Instagram at _mixed_reviews.
And if you want to listen to our back catalog, all 149 episodes before this one, including our original Kirsten Dunst episode, you can find us on any major podcast platform. We're on Apple, Spotify, Audible, Amazon. Just Google one of those. And also, if you do listen to us on Apple Podcasts, feel free to drop by, write us a little review, give us a 5-star rating. We'll read it on the show. We love that for you. We love that for us.
And join us on the Patreon. Me and Gavin go to the movies and we do a little hot takes on the street. I love doing them. And join us. We will be back again next month. We have a guest lined up.
A guest from our wonderful Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. One of our fellow sister shows is coming to join us.
That's right. So until then, bye.
Bye-bye.
And sleep, a chance to dream, so I can see the face I long to touch.